E aí, pessoal, sejam bem-vindos para mais uma live sobre HTML e CSS agora, né? Até a vaga de estágio. Bom, eu vou ver alguns vídeos aqui de CSS. E enquanto eu vou dormir já, tô cansado demais. É isso, eu vou ver aqui.
Hey, hello again, friends. Today I'm going to explain how we can get started working with CSS. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. CSS is an acronym for Cascading Style Sheets. We're able to apply CSS properties to color, style, or otherwise decorate our HTML markup. There's three different ways in which we can apply CSS: inline, internal, and external. We'll begin with inline. Suppose we have an h1 header tag with the title of "This is my website." Let's create a few paragraphs. We need a pair of paragraph tags. We need some sample text. I'll type lorem, then tab. I'll copy this paragraph, then paste 3 additional paragraphs. So we have a total of 4. To apply some CSS styling to one of these elements, for example, the body of our document, we'll select the opening tag, set the style attribute to be. We can list one or a few CSS properties. Let's change the background dash color of our body to be black. The background is now black. Let's change the font color of the H1 heading. Style equals color, that's for the font color. Let's pick white. Then we'll do this for the paragraphs. This is an example of inline CSS. Within the opening tag of one of your elements, you can change the style attribute, then list one of many CSS properties. Another method of applying CSS is internal, as in an internal style sheet. I'll undo these style attributes. To apply an internal CSS style sheet within the head of our document, we need a pair of style tags. Whatever elements you would like to apply CSS to, you would list that within the style tags. If I would like to target the body of my document, I would type body, then a set of curly braces. List your properties between the set of curly braces. Let's change the background dash color of the body of my document to be black. Let's change the H1 heading, H1 curly braces. Then I will list some CSS properties. Color, white. Then let's change the paragraphs. P, curly braces, we're selecting all of the paragraphs. Color, white. So that's an internal style sheet. Within the head of your document, you need a pair of style tags. List the element you would like to select, add a set of curly braces, then list one or many CSS properties. Let's remove the internal style sheet. Now we'll create an external style sheet. External style sheets are probably the most popular method because we can make a style sheet that's reusable. To create an external style sheet within our website folder, we're going to create a new document. I'll name this document style.css. We need to link this style sheet to our HTML file. We can do that within the opening head tag by using a link tag. We need to set the relationship attribute to be style sheet. We're letting the web browser know that we're linking a style sheet. Then we need an href attribute set to the relative file path of our style sheet. They're right next to each other. I only need the file name, including the extension, style.css. We have now linked this style sheet to this HTML file. Using this external style sheet, we can select specific elements from our HTML file and apply CSS properties. We will select the body of our document, body, curly braces. I would like to change the background dash color to be black. Let's change the color of the H1 header tag, color, white. Then the paragraphs, P, curly braces, color, white. If you do need to apply CSS properties to one specific element, such as this first paragraph, we can create an ID within the opening tag. ID equals, think of some unique name. I'll name the first paragraph P1. Let's do this with the other paragraphs. The second paragraph will be P2. The third will be P3. The fourth will be P4. I'm going to delete these lines. To select an element by ID, you'll use a hashtag, then the ID, so P1. What would I like the color to be? Let's change the color to red. I'll select another ID, P2, curly braces. I'll change the color to be orange. P3, color will be yellow. P4, color will be green. You can also apply CSS properties by a class, a group. Within each of these paragraph tags, I will add the attribute of class. The first paragraph will be odd. It's an odd number. The second paragraph will be even. The third paragraph will be odd. The fourth paragraph will be even. To apply any CSS to a class, you'll type dot, then the name of the class. Any elements within the odd class, let's change the color to be red. The first and the third paragraphs are both red because they belong to the odd class. We applied the color red to anything within the odd class by using dot, then the name of the class. Let's change any elements within the even class to be blue. If we're selecting a class, we type dot, the name of the class, even in this case. We'll change the color to be blue. The second paragraph is blue, along with the fourth. They're both part of the even class. Another nice thing about external style sheets is that you can apply them to more than one HTML file. Let's create a second HTML file. I'll name the second file page2.html. To generate some boilerplate HTML within VS Code, you can type exclamation point, then tab. I'll open page 2 with live server. This is page 2. I'm just going to copy all of this and make a few changes. Paste everything within page 2. Let's change the title to be this is page 2. And we have 3 paragraphs this time. We have our index file and page 2. To link an external style sheet to page 2, again, we need that link tag. Set the relationship attribute to be style sheet. Then the href attribute will be the relative file path. They're right next to each other. I only need the file name, style.css. Now, when I save and refresh the page, we have applied all of our CSS from the style sheet to page2.html. External style sheets are reusable, so they're pretty nice and convenient. All right, everybody, so that is an introduction to CSS. With CSS, you can change the font, the color, add decorations. We'll get more into that soon. You can apply CSS inline with an internal style sheet or external style sheet. And that is an introduction to CSS. Hey everybody, in today's video I'm going to show you how we can apply CSS colors to our website. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. We'll need 4 paragraphs to begin with. I'll name the first paragraph P1, the second will be P2, followed by P3, then P4. We can change the background color of an element or the font color. Let's begin with the background color of the body of our document. Within our external style sheet, I will select our body element. I'll change the background color property to be. Now, with colors, we can use names, we can use RGB values, hexadecimal values, or HSL values. For the first example, we'll use named colors. There are multiple sites in which you can find named colors. Let's go with this one, slate gray. Background color, slate gray. Save your changes, and there you go. The background color is now slate gray. Let's change the font color of our P1 paragraph. I will select the ID of P1. I will change the color, that's the font color, to be, do they have tomato? Yes, there is. For P1, let's change the color to be tomato, because I like tomatoes. Those are named colors. Another option is RGB values. For paragraph 2, we will set the color to be a set of RGB values. RGB, then a set of parentheses. R meaning red, G meaning green, B meaning blue. I would recommend looking up a color picker for this. I would like a light bluish color. So let's select, that's good. You'll find a set of 3 values for RGB. These values range from 0 to 255. We will paste those 3 values within the set of parentheses, and there's that blue color. Let's do this with the background color too. Let's change the background color from a named color to RGB values. RGB, parentheses. Let's go with whatever color this is. 41, 41, 41. And there's that new color. Then we have hexadecimal values. For P3, we will change the color to be some hex value. Let's go with the green color. That's decent. Hexadecimal values are a combination of numbers and letters. The letters range from A to F. We'll copy this hex value, then paste it. Hex values with CSS should start with a hashtag. And there's that green color. Let's change the background color again. Let's go with a lighter color this time. 54, 54, 54. There we are. Okay, lastly, we have HSL values. For P4, color, colon. Now, if you're using VS Code, here's a little trick. We can pull up a color picker. Let's type a color like black, click on the box, and there's a color picker that's built in. For HSL, we can click the top bar here. H meaning hue, S meaning saturation, L meaning lightness. Let's go with the purple color. We have 1 value, then 2 percentages. Let's change the background color again, using HSL. I'll pick something a little bit darker. That's good. Alright everybody, so in conclusion, with CSS colors, you can pick either color names, RGB values, hexadecimal values, or HSL values. Through the remainder of the series, we'll be using HSL. And well everybody, that's an introduction to CSS colors. Hey, how's it going everybody? In today's video, I'm going to show you everything you need to know to get started working with fonts and Google Fonts in CSS. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Alright, let's get started everybody. We will need an H1 element. Why don't you go ahead and type in your name? If your full name's pretty long, just use your first name, I guess. And we'll need a paragraph. To generate some text in VS Code, you can type lorem, then hit tab. That is good enough for now. To change the font style, we will go to our CSS style sheet. I'll select our H1 element. To change the font, we can set the font family property. Then pick a font. I would recommend a sans serif font. Serifs are these little projections on each character after each brushstroke. Sans serif fonts don't have these projections. Sans serif fonts are easier to read on a monitor or mobile device. I'm going to pick the sans serif font of Verdana. Now, not all fonts are universally accepted by all web browsers. For some reason, if we can't display Verdana, it's good practice to have a fallback font, one that's web safe. So to add a fallback after your primary font, separate each font with a comma. Let's pick Arial. If a web browser can't display Verdana, the next available font is Arial. That's why you may see 2 or 3 fonts listed for a font family. They're all fallbacks. Let's change our paragraph element. I will set the font family to be Lucida Console. If the font name contains any spaces, you can just place the font name within a set of quotes. For a fallback, I'll use Courier New. If we can't display the first font, we will use the backup font. Now, to change the font size, there is a font size property. Normally it's 16, but you can adjust that number. Here's 18, here's 14, Here's one, it's really tiny, you can barely even read it, like at all. Another unit of measurement is EM. Think of EM as the standard. 1 EM means 100%, it's the normal size. 1.1 EM is 110%. 1.5 is 150%. 0.5 is 50%. You may see either pixels or EM as a unit of measurement for the font size. Let's stick with 1 EM. You can change the font weight. Normally this is normal. You can change that to bold if you so choose. There's also font style. Again, it's normally, well, normal. You can change that to italic. That's enough for basic fonts. Now I would like to introduce Google Fonts. Head to this website, fonts.google.com. This website is free to use. Find 2 fonts that you like. You can also narrow down your search too. For example, I do not want any serif fonts because they're difficult to read on a monitor. I'll just use these 2 for convenience. I'm going to open these in a new tab. All right, we have Roboto and Open Sans. I'm going to select one of these fonts. I'll go with 400 regular. I'll press the plus sign next to this font. And we'll do so with our second font. I'll go with Light 300. To use these fonts, we need to link our HTML file with the style sheet. We can access that style sheet by going to View Selected Families. Be sure that this radio button is selected for link. Then we will copy this link. Within our HTML file, within the head element, I will paste that link. We now have access to those 2 fonts. My first font was Roboto. My second font, I already forgot the name of it, Open Sans. And there we go. That's how to link to the Google Fonts API. Now, if you do prefer, these fonts can be loaded from either a remote server or locally installed on a user's computer. For convenience, I'm going to create a new folder within my website folder named Fonts. Then heading back to Google Fonts, View Selected Families, I will download all. Once we have our file, it's a zip folder. I'm going to unzip it. We are looking for these TTF files. They look something like this. All we need to do is drag and drop these TTF files into our fonts folder. I forgot which one I used. I think it was Roboto Light. These fonts are available locally. We no longer need to link to the Google Fonts API. We can delete that link. So now what we need to do is go to our style sheet and create a font face rule. We'll begin with the first font. At the top of our style sheet, type @font-face, curly braces. We will set the source attribute to be a URL, then add a set of parentheses. The URL is going to contain the relative file path to one of these fonts. I would like Roboto. So I'm going to copy the file name. This is within the fonts folder. I'll place that first, then paste the name of that file, then a semicolon at the end. I'm also going to set the font family property. Then I can come up with the name for this font. I can keep it the same or change it. I'll keep it the same though. This font shall be known as Roboto Light. For my H1 element, I will change that to be Roboto Light. That has appeared to work even though we're not linked to the Google Fonts API. Let's add another font face rule. We will use our second font. Fonts / whatever the heck is listed here. I'm going to rename this. This font shall be known as Open Sans. So we need to change the font for our paragraph to that new font. There we are. All right, everybody, so that's a few different ways in which you can work with fonts in CSS. Hey, how's it going, everybody? In today's video, I'm going to explain borders in CSS. We'll need some sample elements to work with. I recommend creating an h1 header tag. Type in maybe your name. And a paragraph. We'll need a pair of paragraph tags. I'll generate some text by typing lorem, then hitting tab. Let's go to our CSS style sheet. Let's add a border around our h1 element. h1, curly braces. We can select a border style with the border-style property. First, we have solid. Our border is a solid line. There is dashed. We have a dashed line. Dotted. Double for a double border. Groove. Ridge. Inset. Outset. Or none. If something has a border naturally, you can remove it. Let's pick a solid border. You can change the width of the border with the border width property. Border-width. By default, it's 1. Let's increase that to 2. Or even 3. 4. 5. Border width is for the border thickness. I think 3 would be good for this example. You can change the color with the border color property. Then pick a color. I'll use the built-in color picker and use HSL values. Let's go with a purple color. Something like that's good. You can even round the corners with the border radius property. Border-radius. The higher the number in pixels, the more rounded the corners are going to be. That's 5. This is 10. 15. 20. Okay, just out of curiosity, what if we do like 100? Okay, it seems like there's a maximum. You can only round at the corner so far. So it looks like the max is 20. Alright, there's also a shorthand syntax. In place of listing 3 different properties for the style, width, and color, we can do that all at once. Let's eliminate these 3 lines. We'll use shorthand syntax. For the border, I would like 3 pixels solid, then I'll list a color and use the color picker. Again, I would like purple. I don't quite remember what we had, but it was something like that. Yeah, that is the shorthand syntax. You type border, the border width, the border style, then the border color. But border radius is still a separate property. Let's add a border to our paragraph now. We will select the p tag. There is directional shorthand syntax if you want just one of the borders. Let's begin with the bottom. Border-bottom. Then we can list a border width, border style, then a color. And this would only apply to the bottom border of our paragraph. Let's go with 3 pixels, solid, then red. But I'm going to pick a more specific kind of red. There we go. So that is border bottom. We're only applying a border to the bottom of our element. Then there's border top, border-top. Let's go with 3 pixels, solid again, then a color. I'll go with yellow. There we are. Border left. 3 pixels. Let's try dotted this time. Then orange. That's good. Then border right. Border-right. 3 pixels dotted again. Then I will pick green. Maybe like a light green. There we are. Then we'll set the border radius as well. This would apply for all of the borders. Let's try 10. Not bad. All right, everybody, that is how to create CSS borders. Hey, everybody, today I'm going to show you how we can create text shadows and box shadows. We'll need some sample text to work with. I'll use an h1 element, type in your name, and we will need a div element. We will eventually create a box. I'll give this div an ID of box1. Good enough. I would like to give this h1 element a shadow. I will select my h1 element. I will set the text shadow property to be, we need two numbers, a horizontal offset and a vertical offset. Let's do 1 pixel and 1 pixel. We have an offset to the right of 1 and down by 1. If I were to increase the horizontal offset, let's change this to 2. Well, the shadow is moving more to the right. Let's try 5, 10, 50. The first number is for the horizontal offset. Let's change that to 3. The second number is for the vertical offset. If I change that to 5, well, the text is going more downwards. 50 would be this. All right, let's keep that at 3, though. You could add a third number for a blur. Here's a 1 pixel blur. 2, 3, 4, 5. If this is a really large number like 100, you can't even see the shadow anymore. Let's stick with 5. That's a decent amount. You can even change the color too. Let's pick a red color. That's good. You can add more than one shadow. Within the text shadow property, for more than one shadow effect, each shadow is comma separated. So add a comma afterwards. Let's copy what we have, paste it again. I'm going to give the second shadow a negative offset, so it's up and to the left. I'll change the color so it's more distinct. Let's go with the blue color. Yeah, I don't like that one. Yeah, that's fine. Alright, now let's cover box shadows. Let's select our ID of box 1. I'll give this box a width of 100 and a height of 100. Let's pick a color too. Background dash color. Let's go with a whitish color, so it's just barely visible. Something like that's fine. For other elements besides text, we have box shadow. And really, it's the same process as before. We have a horizontal offset. Let's do 3 pixels. A vertical offset, let's do 3 pixels again. A blur, let's do 5 pixels. And a color if we so choose, but I'll keep that the same. Now our box has a 3D pop effect, which is pretty sweet. Alright everybody, so we have text shadows for text, and box shadows for other elements. And well everybody, those are shadows in CSS. Hey, how's it going people? Today I'm going to explain margins in CSS. Margins are the space around an element. I'll create an h1 element, type in your name, or something that's kind of short, and we'll need a paragraph. I'll generate some text by typing lorem, then hitting tab. Let me just zoom in a little bit. To give you a diagram of margins, I'm going to right-click our h1 element and go to Inspect. At the bottom of my Elements window, we have this diagram. It kind of resembles an onion because it has layers. We have the element itself and its dimensions, padding, border, then margins. Padding is between the element itself and any borders. Margins are the area outside of any borders. Today we'll be working with margins, the area outside of any elements. Let's close this window. Naturally, there's a few pixels of margin around our body. The letters in our h1 element and our paragraph aren't directly next to the border of our window. So we can eliminate that. We will select the body element within our CSS style sheet. We will set the margin to be 0 pixels. So now the letters are directly next to the edge of the web browser. And if I were to expand this, you can kind of see that. So that's all that margin is. It's the area outside of an element. To give you another example, let's delete our h1 element along with our paragraph. We'll create 2 div boxes. We need 2 pairs of div elements. I'll create a class for each of these divs. Class box. Then they will each have a unique ID. ID equals box 1. The ID for the second box will be box 2. And then I'll give each of these some text. Box 1, box 2. Alright, now let's style these boxes. So after our body element, let's select the box class. Anything that's a box, let's add a border. 5 pixels solid is fine. I'll change the font size to be 5em. Width, 250 pixels. Height, 250 pixels. And I'm just gonna zoom out a little bit until our view is at 100%. Let me color box 1 and box 2. We are selecting the ID of box 1. For the background color, let's set that to be red. But let's select a more custom red because it's cool. Alright, then box 2 will be blue. Alright, there are marginal directions. We can apply margin to the top of an element, the right, the bottom, or the left, or all sides. With box 1, I will set the margin top property to be 50 pixels. That's going to add 50 pixels of margin at the top of this element, box 1. There's also margin bottom. Now there's 50 pixels of margin after box 1. Margin left. The margin's now on the left. Margin right. The margin's now on the right, but you can't see that because divs are block level elements. They take up the entire horizontal space. You could apply margin to all sides evenly just with margin. So margin, 50 pixels. That applies 50 pixels of margin to the top, right, bottom, left. So if we were to apply this margin to a class like the box class, both box 1 and box 2 will have 50 pixels of margin around each element. There's also margin auto. It is possible to set an element's margin to take up the entire space. I can take any of these elements, such as box 1, and push it all the way to the right of my web browser using margin left. Margin dash left, then I will set it to be auto. The margin on the left side of box 1 will take up as much room as possible. So box 1 is going to stick to the right-hand side of the web browser. Margin right won't appear to do anything.
Ok, pessoal. Vou dormir, falou.